Hello everyone, this is Carla and welcome back to the studio and thank you for joining me for another episode of Step It Up Saturday. So for this episode, we'll be using the Merry and Bright set of dies along with the coordinating stamp set, photopolymer stamp set, and I'll also be using the Merry Bold and Bright 12 by 12 designer series paper. Now this product is actually part of a whole suite of products. So let me bring in my catalog really quick. So in this suite, there is also this white iridescent ribbon right here. And there's also these iridescent adhesive back discs. Now, these were on back order at the time when I ordered this suite, so I don't have them, to use for my projects today, but these are carrying over. It'll either be in the new catalog or it'll be in the online exclusives. There is also some Melon Mambo and Granny Apple Green 12 by 12 foil sheets, and then there's the paper that we'll be using. So let's get started on our first card. Okay, so for my first card, I have a piece of lemon lime twist measuring 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4.25. A piece of Poppy Parade measuring 5 by 3.75, a piece of that Merry, Bold, and Bright DSP measuring 4 7/8 by 3 5/8. I have a piece of Basic White measuring 3 3/4 by 2.5, and then I have a 4 by 3 1/4 inch scrap of Basic White that we'll use for our stamping. So I will start off by folding and burnishing my card base. And then I will adhere my DSP to my Poppy Parade piece. This pack of paper it's so versatile. You can use it for really any occasion on most of the patterns. They're nice and bright and fun. So I'm going to adhere. Try and adhere it straight. And centered. Okay. And then for the smaller piece, I'm going to adhere that to the center of that piece. Make it straight. Okay. And then I'll also adhere this piece onto my card base. Like so. Okay, so I'll set that aside. And then on this piece, I'm going to be doing some stamping. I'm going to bring in my Poppy Parade ink. And in this stamp set, they have these bold words right here. So I'll be stamping those. And I'll be stamping a Merry and Bright Christmas to you and yours. Link this up. Stamp it over there. Okay, let me close this up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fussy cut these out. These are fairly easy because they're straight lines. I can talk, I'm sorry. So they're just straight lines, so they're easy to cut out. So for this part, I'm going to speed up the video. I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm going to add dimensionals to the back of these. I'm going to bring in my minis. And actually I'm going to use my take your pick tool. Find it's a lot easier placing these than they're the small ones. Okay, and bring my card in and I'm going to start laying these down. And what's nice about this is that we're not placing these all straight. Actually, let me trim this one end here. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to place that right here, like at an angle, and then bring in the Christmas right there, and move it up a little bit more. Okay, let me add another dimensional to the back of that. Some of that. Right there. Then my bright there. And put the Mary there. And then got our A. Okay, so then I'm going to bring in my iridescent pearls basic jewels, and I'm going to add the smaller ones right in between each of these words. This is going to kind of mimic the tree trunk. I'm just going to line them up going down. Like so. And then for the very bottom, I'm going to bring in one of the larger ones. Okay, there we go. That is our first card. On to our second. Okay, so for my second card, I have a piece of blueberry bushel measuring 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4.25. A piece of coastal cabana measuring 5 by 3.75. I have another piece of I have a piece of basic white measuring 4.75 by 3.5. This piece I'm going to emboss, and then I have another piece of basic white scrap. This measures 8.5 by 2. This is what I'm going to be doing my stamping on. So for my card base, I'm going to go ahead and fold and burnish that. And I'll set that aside. And then my coastal cabana, that will get adhered onto that. On this piece here, I'm going to bring in my blueberry bushel ink. And I'm going to bring in the greeting that says, "Oh, what fun." Ink that up. And I'm going to stamp that right down here in the lower right hand corner. Okay. And then on this piece, I'm going to bring in my light bulb. And I'm going to stamp, make sure this is ink good. I'm going to stamp this 3 times. So yes, I am creating basically it's a blue Christmas card. For the past few years, my tree has been like all blue, and it's what I call my Elvis tree, because I do have some Elvis ornaments that I put on it. So of course the blue Christmas lights that I have on my tree, but these also kind of look like the blue Christmas lights that are on Graceland. So yes, I had to do the blue. Okay, that didn't stamp very well, so let me ink that back up and stamp another one. Okay, so I'm done with this color. I'll set this aside. I'm going to, well, no, I'm not going to set that aside yet, but I will be die cutting with these dies. With these set of dies for the light bulbs and for the toppers and all that, they actually give you two dies for that, so you can get them die cut a lot quicker. Then the topper for the light bulbs, I'm going to bring in my Coastal Cabana ink, and I'm going to stamp 3 of these. Okay, and then for this one, again, there's 2 dies, so it makes die cutting a lot faster, so I'm going to set that aside. And let's see, I'm going to bring in some scratch because we'll end up stamping off of this. So this nice long string or cord, actually, I'm going to ink that up in my Coastal Cabana. And I'm going to stamp. Ooh, we almost had a catastrophe. So I'm going to make sure this is okay. So I'm going to stamp this right across near the top. Okay, we'll close this up. We're done with our stamping. So for this next part, I will be speeding it up. So let me let you know what it is I'm going to do. So for these 3 bulbs and for these toppers, I'll be die cutting these out. And then on this piece, I'll be using this crosshatch designed embossing folder that comes from the Basics 3D embossing folders. This can be found in the online store under the online exclusives. So, like I said, this is the part where I'm going to speed it up, so I will be right back. Okay, so let me bring in my pieces. So I'm going to adhere this piece to my Coastal Cabana. Center that. And then I'm going to adhere this to my blueberry bushel base. Like so. And then for my light bulbs, I'm going to bring in my liquid glue and also my silicone craft sheet. And I'm going to add a little bit of glue. What's nice on these dies, that actually gives you a little tab that you can attach. Probably way too much glue. That way you can attach those tops to the light bulbs. I just love Christmas lights. When I saw this suite, it's like it was one of those that I definitely wanted to get. The paper's really, really neat. I'm going to have to get myself another pack before it's gone, and hopefully it's not gone already. Okay, so I'm going to bring in my dimensionals and I'm going to add one up here, one down there. Okay, let's remove these backings. Okay, now I'm going to bring in my card and I'm going to add one over here and kind of line it up where you can see the cord through that opening. And then I'll add another one over here. And then our last one, I will put in the middle like so. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in my Wink of Stella. And I'm going to add some onto these bulbs. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to avoid going over this white part in the event that the Wink of Stella ends up pulling some of this ink up. That way it doesn't just make it all blue. I'm just going to brush some on. I'm going to make all my bulbs nice and sparkly. Don't want to squeeze this or I'm going to end up with a big puddle of it, and I would not like that on my card. And then our last one. And you can see that one spot right there, like going over it with my Wink of Stella, it did fill it in. Okay. And then I'm going to bring in my iridescent rhinestone basic jewels. And I'm going to add, let's see, grab these. And I'll add one up in the middle of that loop. And then, let's see, we'll add one right there. And let's see, and another one over here. Okay, so that is our second card. On to our third. Okay, so for my third card, we are going to create a fun fold card. We're going to do a Z fold. So I have a piece of real red measuring 8.5 by 5.5. I scored it at 4 1/4 and at 2 1/8. I have a piece of basic white for the inside portion of my card. That measures 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. I have a piece of the Merry, Bold, and Bright DSP. This measures 5 3/8 by 2. I have a piece of Granny Apple Green that measures 4 1/4 by 3. A basic white piece that measures 3 1/4 by 2. I have a 4 by 2 scrap piece of basic white, and then I have a 2 1/2 by 1 inch scrap of blueberry bushel and melon mambo, and then I have a 2 1/2 by 3/4 inch scrap of shaded spruce. So for this one, okay, so these toppers give some dimension when you cut out the tops of the lights. So I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to die cut those out of the shaded spruce cardstock. And then for these two pieces, the blueberry bushel and the melon mambo, I'm going to die cut them with this shaped light. So kind of like the miniature lights. So I'm going to set that aside. And then for this piece, I'm going to do some stamping on here. So I'm going to be doing the greeting again like I did before. So I'm going to do Merry Christmas for that one. And then for this piece here, I'm going to use my star for that one. I'm going to stamp on that. Now, for this Granny Apple Green piece, I'm going to die cut it with this die, and this is from the Scallop Contours dies. So I'm going to set that aside. And then for these pieces, let me go ahead and fold and burnish my card. So I'm going to fold it in half. We'll burnish that. And then I'm going to flip it over and then fold this piece back. So it's the card front folded in half, like so. So I'm going to take my piece of DSP and I'm going to adhere it to that front flap. And it's going to have such a very slight border around it, like so. Okay, and then for this piece, go and do our stamping. So for this piece, put it this way, I'm going to bring in that cord again. And the ink colors that I'm going to use for this card is Real Red, Shaded Spruce, and Daffodil Delight. So for this, I'm going to use the Shaded Spruce. Okay, let's turn it this way. And let's see, I'm going to ink this up. Okay, and I'm going to stamp that. Let's see, that's right there. Okay, and then we'll close up this because we're done with this color. Okay, and then I smushed that all up. Okay, let's see if we can fix this. So I will have a link to this. This is a mono sand eraser, and I don't know how well I'm going to get this off because that's a really dark green. But you know what? There are two sides to cardstock, so let's flip that over And let's just stamp it again. This time, let me clean this up a little bit because I do have some ink on this block. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, make sure that's dry. And then ink this up again and try not to put the block into the ink. Okay, and I will stamp that there. Okay, we don't need that. And I'm done with this. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in my stamp that says Santa was here, and I'm going to stamp that in real red. Now, I have an idea of the placement of that Granny Apple green piece, so I'm going to stamp this now, but you can stamp it after you have placed this piece on the front, so you'll know that this won't be showing. So I'm going to stamp that. Let me just make sure I got it straight. I'm going to stamp that right there. Okay. And then let's see. So we'll set that aside because that's going to go inside our card like that. Actually, I can adhere that now. And then this will have a small border as well. Okay. And then my piece will cover that so you won't see that. Okay, so I'll set that aside. Now, on this piece here, I'm going to stamp the Merry Christmas, and I will do the same as I did on the first card. I will cut these out, and I'll do, there's something on there. Just make sure there's nothing on. The stamp is very wet. Let me just make sure that's dry. Okay, stamp that again. Okay, and then bring in the Merry. Stamp that. Okay, so we're done with our stamping, so I'll close this up. Okay, so let's see, where are we at here? So no, actually we got more stamping to do. So I'm going to bring in my Daffodil Delight ink, and I'm going to randomly stamp these stars on this background. bring this in. I'm going to stamp off of the cardstock. Let's just add the very end of the star. Okay, we'll close that up. Now we're done with our stamping. So I'll set that aside. We'll set that aside because that piece will go in the middle of this one here. So I'll set that aside. Okay, so I'm going to bring in my machine. Well, first what I'll do is I'll cut these pieces, and then I will die cut, bring in my machine, and I'll die cut those pieces, and I'll be right back. Okay, so before, when I had that little ink mishap, I was showing you this Tombow sand eraser. This, if you have like any like little small ink, like what happened, the ink was on the block and it got on the cardstock, you can use this. It's got like a fine grit of sand to it, and you can lightly rub over that mark and it'll remove most of the color. So I will link this in the description of the video. This is not something that Stampin' Up! Sells. Okay, so let me bring in all my pieces. Okay, so for this background piece that has the stars on it, I'm going to add some adhesive to that. And I'm going to place that in the middle of my Granny Apple Green scallop piece. Okay, so for this, for this piece, I'm going to adhere it onto my card like so. So if you notice on the scallop, there's 2, 4, 6, there's 9 scallops across the top. So the 5th one, that's the center. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my adhesive only on this side and not this side, because if you do that, you won't be able to open up your card. So I'm going to flip that over, taking notice where that center scallop is, and I'm going to add my adhesive onto this side, like so. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in my card base, and I'm going to center that from the top to the bottom and press that down. So we got our Z fold, and you can see that it covers up the greeting underneath. Okay, so for these pieces, the Merry and the Christmas, I'm going to bring in my mini dimensionals again, and I'm going to add some to the back of these. Like so. So I'll set those aside. And then, let's see, I'm going to need my larger ones. Okay, so then for our light bulbs. I'm not going to use my liquid glue because these tops, they have these little slits in them. So if I use liquid glue, it would end up coming through those cracks. So I'm going to add some adhesive to the top of these bulbs. Okay, and then I'm just going to add my toppers to them, like so. Okay. Now, on the stamp set for these, the stamped image itself has this shine mark here, but since I die cut them and I don't have that, I'm going to bring in my Signo white gel pen. This is another item that Stampin' Up! Doesn't sell, but I will have it linked in the description below. So I'm going to actually mimic what is on the image, and I'm going to create that shine mark, like so. And I'll do that on both of these. Okay. All right. Gotta let those dry a little bit. Because I'm going to add Stella to them. See, so okay. Got all that. Okay, set that aside. And then I'll do the same thing on the Melon Mamba one. Okay, move that out of the way. So then on my bulbs, oops, I'm going to add some dimensionals on these. Okay, and then bring in my card. And I will place my blue bulb right there. And then my Melon Mamba one right over here. I'm kind of lining up those loops a little bit. And then I'm going to bring in a Merry Christmas. And again, I'm not worrying about having these lined up straight. So there's my Christmas. And the Merry. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in my festive pearls, and I'm going to use these silver ones, and I'm going to add a few onto here. Okay, so that is our third card. This is a Z-fold card. So let me move this out of the way, and let me bring in the cards that we made today. So we started off with this really simple card, really bright with the lemon lime twist and the poppy parade. And then I stepped it up a little bit with this fun blue Christmas card. Kind of an ode to Graceland and to Elvis and Blue Christmas. So got that card there. And then for our third card, we stepped it up. We'll make sure that this is all in the screen. And so for the third one, this was our fun fold, the Z fold card, and a little bit more stepped up than the second one. So I hope you enjoyed this video and you like the cards. If you do, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. It really does help me in building my channel. So I thank you again for joining me, and I will see you on the next Step It Up Saturday. So bye-bye. Have a blessed one.